Hello and welcome to the BusinessXtoY podcast, the weekly podcast where we discuss business from a generational perspective. I'm Brian, representing Generation X, and I'm the only person here this week because of scheduling issues. So this is going to be an abbreviated episode. Speaking of that, this is episode 14, recorded today, Wednesday 17th, for release Wednesday 17th. That's right, a one-day turnaround on the abbreviated episodes. We have 3 business stories worth talking about, and without further ado, we're going to get to them right now. In this should have already happened news, At&t is finally going to start blocking robocallers. Just one catch, it's going to cost $4 a month for that particular service. I guess this is a good thing. If it's possible for me to give At&t a compliment, I suppose, good job, At&t. That hurt my soul just a little bit. But yes, thank you for finally doing something that should have happened at least a decade ago, blocking robocallers from using the service. And, I guess it would be far too much to ask for At&t not to monetize basic human decency. So congratulations to At&t again for finding a way to sink to yet another depth that they've, finally to been able to mine. I bet eventually they will, in their soullessness, their depth of awfulness, they'll finally hit oil, and they'll find a way to make a profit on that. So there's that. I hope the other awful wireless carriers that we have in this country will, do something similar. Maybe Verizon will do it for $10 a month, and maybe T-Mobile will do it for $6 a month or $3. Now that's more their style. They'll do it for $3, and they'll say they'll give you a credit of $3 for, patting your head and whistling at the same time. But then every month they'll try and find a way not to give you the credit, so you have to call in and fight them for it. But yeah, and Sprint will just go out of business because that's what Sprint's going to do. So they're not going to have to worry about robocalls unless it's what the new version of their company is going to be doing robocalls. That might be what Sprint turns into. I think that'll probably be the perfect end to this whole thing. The T-Mobile merger won't be able to go through. Sprint will turn into a robocalling company, and At&t will monetize blocking Sprint from calling you. That sounds like the perfect circle of life. In app news, apps can share data with each other. So even if you tell one particular app not to track your location or look in your contact book, which, by the way, why is that necessary? Why do they all ask me to look in my contact book? I can't. That's like a new prevalent thing that they're all wanting to have access to your contact book lately. It's weird. And very seldomly does there any benefit to looking in my contact book. I don't understand why they all want to do that all of a sudden. But it was found that apps that you have given permission to, that permission doesn't just stop with that app. They can share it with third parties and other apps on your phone. Therefore, maybe you've blocked all your Facebook connections because you don't like what Facebook's doing with your stuff. But just for instance, I'm not saying they do this, but just for instance, just as a flight of fancy, you could say the Comcast app, which allows you to be able to use hotspots, when you're not at your house and not have to use your mobile wireless data. That also, for some weird reason, wants access to my contacts and my GPS tracking location, when, all it should really need is access to my Wi-Fi. So, I can get the Wi-Fi. But they could then take that information and share it with Facebook. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's no spot to turn off app sharing. So I guess that's what we need to. Oh, I should have called the headline that. I should have called it app sharing. But yeah, that's the next battle of privacy is, blocking companies after you've given them your information and sharing it with people you don't want them to share it with. So I don't know. But maybe privacy is totally dead. Maybe there is no such thing as privacy anymore, and we all have to get used to living in this world now where, sharing your contact book in your phone is just a routine part of using an electronic device. I personally don't want to live in that world, but I absolutely had to share my contact book for whatever reason with Comcast to be able to use their Wi-Fi app. So and I try to get my way around it, and I really could not find one. So maybe there's just no way around it. All right, our last story is a story about food deserts. Living in a food desert makes you 2 to 3 times more likely to die of a disease like diabetes. A activist in South Central Los Angeles is trying to stop that. She has little pop-up food stands that sell fresh food, not processed McDonald's cheeseburgers, not boxed Ritz crackers, fresh fruits and vegetables, because, if you're a person who lives in these areas, then you know that trying to find fresh food can be a 2-hour drive, and if you live in a hot one of these areas, a 2-hour drive is just long enough for food to spoil. So, having a local supermarket in your town that, can sell you reasonably priced fresh produce is a way to live longer. And the reason I have put this story here, it's not talking about mergers or technology or apps, but good health is good business, and and that's what this podcast is about. And it's also about generational topics, and I think this has become a big topic for our generation, a kind of a slightly ignored topic. The convenience of fast food restaurants, prepackaged microwave meals, and all the rest of that stuff have crowded into our food landscape, our food pyramid, and they don't really have a use there. Those things should be occasional, attachments of convenience, not routine parts of our diet, and they're becoming routine parts of our diet. We all need to focus more on fresh foods, skipping the drive-through window, cooking at home, and I'm the biggest guilty of it. I literally have different restaurants I eat at on different days of the week, but for the most part, the food I eat there is fresh. But let's face it, I could probably stand to eat a little healthier and maybe hit a farmer's market on occasion. So that'll be my this episode resolution to start hitting some more farmer's market. And I think that's basically going to do it for us for this week. I apologize for the abbreviated episode. I hope there's some good content in here that folks can attach to. As always, you can get the full articles of which I spoke about in the episode by going to BusinessXtoY.com and checking out the show notes. That's BusinessX, the letter X, the word to, and letter Y.com for the show notes. You can also subscribe and like on iTunes by searching for BusinessXtoY, and you can search and find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Patreon. Have I mentioned Spotify? I did say Spotify. Speaker and Castbox. I think that's basically all of them. I didn't have them written down in front of me, and I think I pulled it from memory pretty good. So other than the fact that I mentioned Spotify twice, I'm going to count that as a success. I guess until next week, go make a profit.